I want to bring in John Brennan, former CIA director during the Obama administration, and a longtime CIA agency operative. John, you've had experience in the Marines. You've had experience as a station chief in the Middle East. This is unprecedented.
Well, certainly, Andrea, it's unprecedented in scale and scope. The Israelis have tremendously proficient technical capabilities, and they're very creative in these covert operations. And so the fact that they were able to compromise so thoroughly Hezbollah's supply chain enabled them to have this impact. And the 2 days of these detonations, first on the pagers and the walkie-talkies, it really does seem as though this was a prelude to the military strikes that are taking place today. Israel's intention with those detonations was to diminish the command and control system of Hezbollah, which would then degrade their ability to be able to respond and to defend against these Israeli strikes. So we don't know what else Israel might have in store in terms of lashing out against Hezbollah. But as the Israelis have said publicly, they're now shifting their attention to the northern border and against Hezbollah. And so this does have the potential to escalate and to spiral into a broader conflict in the region.
And apparently, according to the New York Times, this was a front in Hungary that manufactured and put the explosives in these devices. So it was an Israeli front, not even a local company. This was a very long-planned operation.
Yes, I think it took many months, if not many years, to put in place. And intelligence and security services have been known to set up these front companies, shell companies. Clearly, the Israelis did it very effectively, and Hezbollah had no questions about the integrity of their supply chain because they distributed these 4,000 pagers, as Hassan Nasrallah has said. So it really is a demonstration of Israel's reach. And who knows? And that's what I think they're trying to send a signal to Hezbollah in terms of what else Israel might have been able to do in the Hezbollah infrastructure that they could, in fact, exploit.
And now they're trying to degrade their ability to retaliate by going after more traditional targets. Hezbollah has 150,000 missiles. This is not Hamas with some rockets firing. This is a powerful force, a military force that could take out Israel's airport. They could reach Tel Aviv easily. Why now? Why now, just as the Secretary of State was landing in Egypt for a 10th round of negotiations? Why did Netanyahu approve this? And this is on one thing on which he and the military, the IDF, his defense minister, Gallant, agree. They disagree on Hamas, but they, continuing the war in Hamas, but they agree on going after the north.
Well, Israelis across the political spectrum have long been worried about Hezbollah's growing military capabilities, and many Israelis believe that war with Hezbollah is inevitable, a major war. And as you point out, Hezbollah has been able to put together quite an arsenal inside of Lebanon and 150,000 missiles and rockets, and many of them are longer range. They are very capable. They're hardened. They're hidden. And so an all-out war between Israel and Hezbollah certainly would be very costly to Israel. Israel would be able to prevail over Hezbollah, but it would come at great expense because, as you point out, there could be destruction of airfields, of strikes against Israeli cities with a large number of Israeli casualties. So I think what Netanyahu has decided in his war cabinet is to be a bit preemptive here, taking these steps. But who knows how far it's going to escalate, because I do not believe that Iran will stand by and allow Israel to continue to pummel Hezbollah into submission. And Hezbollah is not going to be submissive here. I think this is just going to encourage Hezbollah to retaliate some way, whether it's in theater or, as we well know, Hezbollah has quite a worldwide terrorist network that they have used in many past years. Might they decide to strike against Israeli diplomats or Jewish targets or other types of things, given that they are not a match for the Israeli military in the theater, but Hezbollah does retain capabilities to hurt Israel and Israeli interests outside?
I want to ask you about the wisdom of this, not just during the hostage negotiations, where there will be an impact. I just talked to Aviva Siegel. She was on with Jose, and she's and other hostage families are very distressed at this. But the wisdom of doing this, the UN is going to have a Security Council meeting tomorrow, and do you have questions about the morality of it?
Well, it may be a tactical setback for Hezbollah, but as you are implying, I think there's real serious questions about the strategic wisdom of this. It's clear that Netanyahu doesn't want to have a ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza and has not gone to any great lengths to try to engage in hostage negotiations. And so therefore, he has taken a very aggressive tack in Gaza against Hamas and now clearly against Hezbollah as well. I wish that Netanyahu and the Israelis would put as much time, effort, energy, and creativity into finding ways to try to bring down tensions in the region, as opposed to what they're doing, which is using their military prowess and capabilities, which are formidable. But they're punishing and retaliating against their enemies. I'm not saying that Hezbollah and Hamas, are good players. They are absolutely not. But they're not going to be vanquished into oblivion. They're going to continue to fight back, especially if they're getting hit so hard by the Israelis. And this is just, I think, going to encourage a lot of Hezbollah members to seek some type of retaliation.
John Brennan, thank you so much.